everybody. Welcome to the Abroaders Travel Podcast, your weekly meetup with thousands of entrepreneurs, hustlers, creators, nomads, ninjas, wanderers, and world changers, all seeking to build the skills and connections to live a life without borders. If you want to learn more about what we do or download our entire podcast archive, check out the website, abroaders.com.
Happy Wednesday morning, and welcome to another episode of the Abroaders Podcast. I'm Eric, recording in Austin, Texas, but by the time this show airs on Wednesday the 1st, I will be on the streets of Rio de Janeiro celebrating Carnival with all the Cariocas. Got a couple of news and updates for you, and then AJ and I are going to break down the Starwood Preferred Guest increased sign-up bonus in the second half of the show today. But before I get to that, let me take you through some news and updates. So first off, we've got the Citibank American Airlines cards. This is kind of a big bummer. The offers have been at 50,000 points for quite a while. They've had a really nice run of 5 or 6 months with increased sign-up bonuses for both the personal and the business version of the Citi Platinum Select card. And so those offers, it looks like are going to be going down sometime around March 1st. So that's today. Hopefully the offers have not already been pulled, but we're gonna see if you are thinking about getting approved or getting an application in for that card. I definitely recommend you do it sooner than later. Citi's just basically said that they're going to be pulling the increased promotion. A couple of big benefits for this card. Number one, the offers are $50,000 after $3,000 in spend within 90 days. One of my favorite benefits of the card is that you get a 10% rebate on award bookings, the number of points that you spend, up to 10,000 points back each year. So if you are going to redeem 100,000 American Airlines miles, you will get 10,000 of those back. All you need to do is use your card to pay the taxes and fees. And actually, you don't even need to do that. It says that, but we've got a lot of reports that essentially if you just use the, if the account, you have a Citi Platinum Select account that is linked to the frequent flyer account that you redeem from, you're going to get that credit. And I believe that's only with the personal card. I don't think the business card offers that. So definitely really worthwhile on that front. And with these offers, the annual fees waived for the first year. After that, it's $95. And the really nice thing about these cards as well is if you don't feel like the benefits of the card are worth it, they also offer checked bags and priority check-in and things like that. But if you don't think it's a great fit to keep the card long-term, Citi's really been good about allowing you to downgrade to a no-fee Citi American Airlines card. So I did that a little while back with one of my cards, was able to downgrade it to a bronze card. So that's really good. The other thing to know about these offers is that you're not eligible to get approved for the card if you've opened or closed another card that earns American Airlines miles in the last 2 years. However, there is sort of an exception between the business and personal cards. So, for example, if you opened the personal Platinum Select card, you are eligible to get the bonus on the business one, even if it's been less than 24 months since you opened or closed the personal one, and vice versa. So that's good. Hopefully the offer is still around when the show airs, but definitely would not wait until tomorrow if you're thinking about getting that card. Pretty significant downgrade going to the 30,000 point sign-up bonus. Okay, so next up, we've got a targeted promo for Plastic, which is a service that lets you pay things that are difficult to pay on a credit card. So this could be like mortgage or rent, maybe student loan payments, things like that. You can basically put anything on a credit card using this service. And right now they're offering 2 months without the charge. So typically there's a service fee of 2.5%. And it looks like this is a pretty widely spread targeted offer. So it might be worth taking a look, seeing if you got an email from Plastic, or just heading over to the website. If you have an account, you should be able to find out there. And we'll link to a Doctor of Credit post that's got some more of the details about that. But yeah, definitely can be a good opportunity. I would say as far as ongoing spend, once you get out of that 2 months without the service charge, probably doesn't make sense to put your rent or other things and pay the 2.5% fee unless you're working on a sign-up bonus, because that's basically, for most folks, you're probably going to get somewhere between 2.5 cents to 3 cents a point. So it's basically going to be a wash, and it's probably a little bit more extra effort than it's worth. So that's something to keep in mind, but pretty cool service. And I'm glad to see they're offering some promotions, trying to attract some folks. Okay, so next up, we got a super cheap fare. $65 one-way fares to Europe are now bookable on Norwegian. And, generally they've had some really good airfare prices. So even if this $65 one is not still available, if you are thinking about going to Europe, it's definitely worth taking a look at Norwegian. They do nickel and dime you for every single thing. So just be aware that you're going to end up paying extra for luggage, picking your seats and meals. But, if you're able to snag one of these super cheap fares, that is obviously not going to be such a huge deal. So hopefully some of you guys are able to jump on that. There's also some really good availability on Swiss in business class for October to December for trips to Europe from the US. So Swiss is a Star Alliance carrier, and business could be booked, for example, for 70,000 points one way on United, 55,000 on Aeroplan, or 65,000 with Chris Flyer Miles. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. Do be aware that they do have fuel surcharges, so it could potentially be somewhere in the $300 to $500 out of pocket for the business class ticket, depending on your airports and if you're doing a round trip. But really awesome to see this, because Swiss has a great business class product. It's definitely one of the ones that I would like to fly on my next trip to Europe. So hopefully some folks can take advantage of that. Sort of getting into low season, but there's definitely some very cool stuff going on in Europe and Switzerland towards October and December, especially if you're into skiing, snowboarding, any of those winter sports. So hopefully some folks can jump on that. And then last but not least, we've got Uber has just rolled out self-driving cars in Tempe, Arizona. Same cost as the regular drive, and they do have a driver, an engineer is what they're calling them, that actually sit in the front seat just to be able to take over just in case. So anyways, I'm not going to be in Tempe anytime soon, but if any of you guys have had a chance to check out that experience, would love to hear from you. And also would love to know if there are any other places that you've seen self-driving Ubers on the roads. All right, that's going to do it for news and updates. I got to hit the road, but I already recorded with AJ, so we've got some more stuff for you on the SPG offers, another opportunity, and one that you could potentially combine with the application for the City Advantage card. Time to go pack my bags, and I will see you next week. Alrighty, so for this week's core content, we're going to dive in a little bit more in depth into the Starwood Preferred Guest credit cards from American Express. Now, there's a business and a personal version. These cards are not new. They've been around for quite some time, but they're currently at a higher bonus than they have been for quite some time.
Yeah, they're all-time high. We haven't seen the offer higher than this.
And it's important to remember because they're 35,000 point bonus, and a lot of folks are now used to seeing 50, 60, 70, 80, sometimes 100,000 point bonuses. And I would say point for point, Starwood is by far the most valuable. If I could have 50,000 of any point, no question, it would be Starwood Preferred Guest points. But we're going to get into some of the details about who should get this card, because if you read any of the blogs that get paid on this card, it's the best thing ever that these two offers are on, and maybe not the best choice for everybody.
So that's the point, is we are going to give you 3 main reasons why you would want to get the card. However, this episode is not about us telling everyone to get this card, because everyone should not get this card. And if you read any blog that says you should get this card and everyone should get this card, they're just selling their soul to get you to sign up through their affiliate link. So we're going to try to lay out, why SPG points are really valuable, who they're going to be good for, and the main reasons you want to get this card. Essentially, the best ways to use SPG points. So, that being said, let's talk about some of the details about this offer. So typically, this is at 25,000 points for the sign-up bonus, and now it's up to 35,000 points, and it's it's kind of broken into two pieces. So with the personal card, you get your 25,000 SPG points after spending $3,000 in 90 days. And then you get another 10,000 SPG points after spending $2,000 over the next 3 months. So it's essentially, if you want to think about it just as, hey, I'm going after 35,000 points, you got to spend $5,000 in 6 months with.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's important. So this is kind of one of those compound bonuses that's a little tricky. So you have to spend the first 3K within the first 90 days. So you got to spend at least $1,000 a month. You get your first chunk of 25,000 points, and then you've got an additional 3 months after the first deadline to spend 2,000 more.
Right.
So if you can meet the first one, presumably it's not going to be trouble to hit the second one.
Yeah.
And that extra bonus is what's normally not part of this offer. So the business card is a little bit higher spend requirement. So normally it's 25,000 after 5K spend. And so for the business card, it's still going to be 25,000 after 5K spend. And they're going to have an extra 10,000, same situation, over a total of 6 months. And to get the extra 10,000 with the business one, you have to spend an additional 3. So 8K total over 6 months, split up in 5 for the first 3 and 3 additional for the second 3 months. But if you've got enough spend to be able to meet those, that's an opportunity, if you haven't had either of these cards, for 70,000 SPG points in one set of applications here.
Yeah. And one thing too, that before you go any further, I guess a way to think about points and miles, what Eric and I were talking about before we started recording, is that there are other cards out there that do offer more points, and there might be a little bit more instant gratification. But as far as points and miles go, you really want to sign up for sign-up bonuses when they are at a normal rate or better. So, I mean, if you're going to get this card, now really is the time. If you want more of just a quick win, you don't plan on signing up for many cards, the Chase Sapphire Preferred might be a little bit better. But if you really want to maximize points and miles, you take the bonuses when they're at the high points. And this is the high point for the...
Yeah, you want to try and ideally time things a little bit. So the signups have a $95 fee that's waived for the first year. So that's nice that you don't have to worry about paying that. And the big exclusion here is if you've already had this card. So the language in the application is once per lifetime. So if you've ever had this card, you're out of luck. However, I read a really interesting post by Dr. Credit, who really gets into the nitty gritty of the bank rules and what's enforced versus what's said. And it looks like a lifetime is approximately 7 years, according to Amex.
Yeah.
So the thing that you want to do if you had this card a long time ago, somewhere in the 7, 8+ years
much
ago.
more liberal than the penal system with
no
25 years or something.
So what you can do, and I'd recommend that you check directly with Amex. So if you've got an Amex account, you ideally want to log in and use the online chat. That's probably the least invasive way to communicate with them, and just say like, hey, I can't remember if I had the SPG card. Sounds familiar. Can you see if I had that in my history? And they should be able to say, oh yeah, you had it back in 2001, or nope, we don't see anything. And then
if they come back to you and say, yeah, you'd be like, okay, so that means if I get the card, I'm not eligible for the bonus, or am I? And then, who knows what they tell you.
See what they say. Always good to have that in always with the chat as well. You can always use that. If somebody tells you you're eligible, I think you're in pretty good shape. And
Amex is, they're pretty reasonable about that stuff. All right, man, let's get into the 3 reasons to get this card.
Yes.
So the first one, and you touched on this earlier, is it's even more miles than it seems if you understand the transfer partners, which we're going to get to in a second. But SPG offers a bonus when you transfer your SPG points to, say, an airline like American Airlines. And so if each 20,000 chunk of SPG points you transfer, you get an extra 5,000 SPG points. So you transfer 20,000 points to American Airlines, let's say, 25,000 points show up in your account.
Yep.
And you can do that up to 79,999 points a year. So really
per day.
Sorry. Yeah. But you can do that 3 times with getting the bonus.
And so after all the spend is done, so by the time you get the 35,000 point bonus, you will have already spent an additional $10,000 easily. You'll actually have spent $13,000 total to get both bonuses. So if you're going for both, by the time the second bonus posts on, say, the business card, you'll actually have more than 80,000 points, which is important because that means that you've got 100,000 worth of any airlines points.
Yeah.
So the combo of these two cards is worth more than 100,000 airline miles if you do it right. And that's where that rule comes in that's really important.
If you transfer more than
the maximum that you should ever transfer, except under dire, I need to get this booking that's on hold or whatever confirmed, is 60,000 in a day, because that will net you a total of 75,000 points.
Right.
And then tomorrow you can transfer an additional 20,000 to get, the last chunk of 25.
Yeah. So just, the math that Eric was talking about, if you get the personal card, you can actually consider it 50,000 airline miles of your choice.
Yep.
Which is really nice. So it could be American, it could be one of these other programs we're going to talk about. We talk about the strength of their transfer partners, and this is why it's a really valuable currency.
I think the last thing to consider in terms of when and whether to get this card, if you're just at the beginning, like AJ said, like there's easier cards. I think the Sapphire Preferred is a really good example of a better place to start if you don't want as much effort to go into figuring out how to use them, because the more options you have, the more stuff you got to look at to see what's the best deal. However, the other reason that this card is attractive right now is we really don't know what's going to happen with the Marriott and SPG merger. There's a chance that they're going to eliminate transfer partners entirely, and this whole program is going to get merged into something that's more similar to what Marriott has now, which is just a hotel program. Now, they've said explicitly that that's not going to happen in 2017. So if you get this bonus, you've at least got until December 31st, assuming that you trust them to be able. And the thing is, like, they might be lying or they might have incentive to change their minds, but it's really complicated to merge programs. So they're just not going to mess with it this year. So now maybe, in other words, like the last time we saw a 35,000 point bonus, I think was last summer. So sometime in July or August, there was a very short period of time that this went up. But if you wait until August, or maybe it comes back around in November, then at that point, you really don't know whether these transfer opportunities are still going to be here. So now is kind of the last guaranteed time when you can get these points and definitely have plenty of time to use them with the airline transfer partner of your choice without really worrying about some sort of devaluation or just eliminating the whole transfer idea.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing too that we kind of touched on earlier, but for the 524 person that has issues, I mean, nice option right now. Good timing. Like you said, for the newbie, maybe it's not the best card, but for somebody that's past 524, if somebody knows what 524 means, then maybe this is a good card for you. You understand the game a little bit.
Well, the other thing to keep in mind is even if you're conserving that last slot for an application with Chase, the business Amex SPG is not going to count.
Right.
So when you're trying to figure out how many cards you have that are going to count towards 524, count up all your personal cards and all of your Chase business cards. And that's it. So if it's an Amex business card, it doesn't count. And if it's a Citi or any other bank business card, it doesn't count.
Right.
So you can get a free application. You could be at 424 and just waiting for, the chance to apply for the next Chase card. And in the meantime, there's no downside to getting the Amex business SPG. If you haven't already had that, that won't affect you.
Yeah.
So that's good to know. Let's get into some of the transfer partners. So there's like 30 plus airline transfer partners.
Yeah, a lot of airline transfer partners.
And almost all of them are one-to-one. There's a couple of sort of weird exceptions here that we don't really need to get into in terms of how they work. United is the one exception that's devalued in the sense you're never going to want to transfer one SPG point and get a half of United point or two for one. But that's the only bad transfer ratio in the whole system. Air New Zealand is just a weird program that the points are worth a huge amount more. So it takes, we're not even going to get into that. But for the most part, it's a one-to-one transfer with that bonus that you talked about when you transfer 20,000 or more at a time. And the second thing is that some of these are instant, but most of them are going to take 2 days or so. There's a few that are on the higher end. So the one piece that you have to be aware of is there's a little extra risk when you're transferring SPG points. American's my favorite in the sense that you can hold for 5 days and American points transfer from SPG within 5 days. So in other words, if you've got an American redemption on hold ready to go, you can put it on hold today, transfer SPG points today, and they're going to post 2 days or 3 days max, and you get plenty of time to take advantage of that hold. Now, Alaska is one of the other great partners, and if you transfer SPG to Alaska and somebody books the last seat, then you've got a bunch of Alaska miles that you can't get back into SPG. So just, I guess, the points guy and whoever else is trying to sell you on applying for this card might not point out that there's a little bit more nuance to the way that you actually make moves to redeem these points. But again, they're really worthwhile, especially if you can have a little bit of patience and wait for that award that is just hard to find with other programs.
Yeah, and like all transferable, currencies, this is I think SPG is really valuable. I look at American and I look at Alaska, and some things have changed with American since the devaluation, but those are a couple of the bread and butter, really good programs that have a lot of really good redemptions. And SPG is your one way outside of earning those miles to get miles in there.
Yep.
There's the programs like Air France and Singapore, which, okay, whatever. You can also transfer city points, and you can also transfer Amex, and you can also transfer your Chase points. But the fact that SPG is the one way you can get points into an American account and an Alaskan account, I think that's really attractive. So if you're somebody that's really big on American redemptions and just their program works for you, or you love Alaska and that works for you, SPG that's your one transfer partner.
Yeah, the one option. I think generally speaking, I always try and use a different transferable currency where possible. So that's a great example where if you want to move points to Air France, use Amex or use Citi instead of using SPG. So there's a couple of other unique ones. American and Alaska are by far, those are the only two programs I've ever transferred SPG to. But if you look at the other ones, the ones that I think are kind of interesting are potentially Japan Airlines, which has most of the same partners as American, but a different award chart that's distance-based. So we were talking a couple of weeks ago about Cathay Pacific and how they're advantageous for round-trip business class in some senses. So JAL could potentially be a really good program if you've got a specific redemption that's just cheaper if you use Japan Airlines miles versus using American miles. So that's one to be aware of. The other one that I like, depending on where you're going, Lufthansa is a program that offers, number one, they offer way more space to their own frequent flyers. So just like Singapore gives Chris Flyer members better access to business class, Lufthansa basically blocks all first class space until 2 weeks before departure for everybody except their own members. So if you want to book Lufthansa first class, SPG to Lufthansa is a very sharp way. And because they block everybody else, it's wide open. Generally Lufthansa miles, you're not going to have trouble booking a first class from Frankfurt to JFK or whatever. So that's a good possibility. The other thing that I like about Lufthansa miles is that they've got the second best pricing to Hawaii from the U.S. So Korean is the other sleeper. They're a transfer partner of Chase
the
Ultimate
Germans
Rewards.
And the Koreans.
Yeah, they don't know. Maybe they don't realize how far away it is. Or I think basically, the U.S. carriers know that Hawaii is a big destination. Lots of people want to travel. They're excited to use points, and they can jack up the prices.
And they don't really compete against Lufthansa's program. And
you have to really know how things work. So in other words, it would be really easy to, just take a look and say, oh, okay, well, I can book a 50,000 point round trip from the US to Australia on Delta or to Hawaii on Delta. But you might be able to get that for $35K using I think Lufthansa is at $40K from the continental U.S. round trip. So $20K each way.
That's good.
And that's better than everybody else except maybe West Coast on British Airways. So either on Alaska or on American Metal using Avios points. But it's one of the better deals. So if you've got a Hawaii trip coming up, SPG to Lufthansa could be a really good deal. And with that 5,000 point bonus, it's even fewer. So in other words, a round trip at $40K is only going to cost you, you're going to spend 25,000 plus 10,000. If you don't have any extra points, that could be a really nice deal. I don't think there's any others that are especially attractive. They just ended Virgin America, which was a good loophole a little while back to get miles into Alaska. I think, I guess the other one that probably makes a lot of sense is Virgin Atlantic Flying Club. And the reason for that is that if you look at Virgin Atlantic, their transfer ratio with, I want to say it's Chase Ultimate Rewards is the other program that transfers, and it's like 1 to 2 or 1 to 1.5. So you get fewer points because their points are so much more valuable. For example, I just was looking for a customer at Virgin Atlantic from the US to Tokyo, and business class round trip $60K. Right. So that's just way cheaper. It's business class round trips like $140K with most of the other programs. So because of the SPG's 1-to-1 ratio with Virgin Atlantic, that is a really good opportunity. Virgin Atlantic has really high fuel surcharges, so it's not for everybody. But that's the other program besides JAL and Lufthansa that I think are potentially really attractive for SPG and offer some unique redemption opportunities. And then Janelle put into the notes Asiana, which I don't know quite as much about Asiana's program, but I know, so they're in Star Alliance, and when you compare them to like Life Miles or some of the other currencies, they tend to do better on certain routes. So that's kind of a niche one that depending on your routing, Asiana is based in Korea, so it's going to be Asia routes for the most part, but that could be a potentially a nice program that you might want to transfer SPG to as well.
Yeah, so that's the two things. So kind of to bring it back, the first point we touched on is you get more miles than you think. So there's that bonus. You transfer 20,000 SPG points to your program, voila, 25,000 points show up in your account. We just touched on the transfer partners and how powerful they are, and how there's a couple like big time programs that a lot of people like to use, and they only have one transfer partner, and that is SPG. And then finally, the third point is this interesting partnership with Marriott after everything that went down.
Yeah. So now I talked a couple of weeks ago, so I won't rehash everything, but there are some really good hotel redemptions to be had. And in fact, this actually came up with somebody that was booking a trip to Hawaii, where I found a Marriott resort that had 5 nights available. That was going to be like 15,000 Marriott points per night, which is 5,000 Starwood points per night. And so you pay for 4 nights, that's 20,000 Star points, and you get a 5-night stay at a really nice resort in Hawaii. So one sign-up bonus, and you've barely used half of the points you've got, and you've got a really nice redemption. So the hotel partnership is potentially a nice way that you might be able to, especially at higher cost properties. And I would say also there's the aspirational stuff where there's properties that SPG has access to in the Maldives. Marriott's got properties all over the world. Right. And so depending on the price per night, you might get a good hotel stay. But the one I wanted to sign off on here is the potential opportunity to combine this with the Southwest Companion Pass opportunity, which we're going to get into next week.
Yep.
So just a super high level thing. The Southwest Companion Pass right now can be earned by getting 110,000 points in a calendar year with Southwest program. And the sign-up bonuses, so the Chase Southwest cards count. So you can get 50K for each of those. Yep. But a lot of people aren't eligible either because of 524 or some other reason. They can't get those points. And on March 31st, SPG transfers to Marriott, and Marriott, so you get 3 times the number of SPG points with Marriott. And Marriott has this deal where you can book flights and nights essentially. And so you get a package where you get a certain number of airline miles in addition to a 5 or 7 night stay at a Marriott property.
It's really strange. It's a really good deal. And on the surface, when you look at it, it seems like the type of thing that just is like, no, go away. It's a bad deal. They're trying to bundle stuff up just so it's
one of the rare bundles. It
actually is a good deal. So yeah, that's a good point.
So we're going to get into more detail about what you need to do. Now, I wouldn't base the decision to sign up or not sign up for the SPG card on trying to get Companion Pass, because unless you spend a lot, unless you can clear the spending requirement, like within the first month, you're not going to have enough time. So this really, the SPG to Marriott to Southwest, that kind of messy opportunity is really there mostly for people that already have SPG points right now. Yep. And getting the additional card might be a way to replace them. So in other words, if you are able to get one Southwest card but not the other one, you can get 50,000 points that way. And it's relatively easy to use 35,000 Southwest SPG points, convert them to Marriott. Now you've got 90 or 105,000, and that should be enough to do one of those packages and get like 50,000 additional Southwest miles in addition to the stay. So we're going to get into more detail about the Southwest Companion Pass, what you can do to get it, and what's exactly going to happen when this hotel.
So we're going to talk about that next week.
Yep.
So, I mean, wrapping stuff up with this SPG card, I think we've painted a decent picture that, if you are eligible for this card, you can meet the spending requirement, and you're interested in maxing out sign-up bonuses, and really when you sign up for a card, getting a great deal, this is a great deal. However, by the nature of the transfer partners, and it's not the easiest currency to use, if you're a novice and you just want to sign up for one card and you don't know if you're going to want to sign up for another card and you want simplicity, probably the Chase Sapphire Preferred or an airline card is going to be better. However, if you are interested in maxing stuff out, this is a really good opportunity, and it is a limited time offer. You don't have to sign up today. You don't have to sign up tomorrow, but I believe it's like April 5th, I think is when. Yeah, so through April 5th. So
that's what they've recorded as the date that the 10,000 extra miles is going to go away. And if you're still not sure, even after running through this podcast and getting some pros and cons here, and you haven't yet created a free Abroaders account, we will take a look at all the info, your upcoming trips, any points you already have, what cards you've got, figure out if you're eligible, and make a recommendation whether this card is the one for you now, or maybe it makes sense to go after something different. Happy to help.
Yep, something we do every day, and man, it's really interesting. I mean, we've done it so much. We've recommended hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of at this point thousands of cards, and there's so many different factors that weigh into stuff. Just it only takes one little thing about how I'm going to have a third person. Well, is this flight going to actually have availability for 3 people, or but yeah, I mean it's fun. So yeah, create a free account, get free credit card recommendations, do as you please with them. So yeah, man, I mean, I guess closing notes is this is a really good offer. However, it's not as good of an offer as some of the points blogs are saying, because they're desperate for you to sign up for the card through their link. So yeah, I mean,
and in full disclosure, we do actually get paid if you guys
do sign up for it.
So if it's a good choice for you, and only if it's a good choice for you, we certainly appreciate you using the links at abroaders.com. We'll have those in the show notes.
And if you're unsure, just don't sign up for it. Ask us, reach out to us. I mean,
we'll give you the straight shot.
We've given the straight shot many a times to people that was not in our best interest financially. We've recommended hundreds of cards that we don't get paid for. That's kind of our thing. We recommend the best card. So let us know if you have any questions about whether this is a good card for you.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. Thank you so much for being with us.
Hey, Broaders, don't be shy. Hop over to the website and join our email list for exclusive travel hacking content. If you like what we're up to, the best way you can support the show is by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Lastly, we would love to hear from you, so send your show feedback to Eric